Tim, we're here with TLC Pressure Washing, and we're heading back home from the job. Here's a tip. First of all, you always want to know what the smell of fire smells like, or smoke. And you want to be able to distinguish between, like, barbecue, cooking, a certain ethnic cooking. Indian cooking is always really easy to tell. There's a lot of curry and smell like that. Chinese cooking has this very distinct odor. If you're doing breezeways and apartment complexes and someone opens the door, you can smell what is in their apartment complex in the breezeway. Always have been able to. If they're doing laundry, I can tell they're doing laundry because it'll have the dryer will have one of those little dryer sheets in it, and it'll smell like lavender or something like that. But today we're washing, and I'm on the very last breezeway for the day, and I get down and I smell something that smells like rubber, or to me it smells like wire burning because we've had a house fire, so I know what the smell of burning house is in electrical wiring. So I'm like, Frank, come over here and smell. He couldn't smell. I'm like, I smell something. And it's right here in this little area. Okay. So then I chase down a maintenance person, and Frank calls the front office. Maintenance person comes, he smells something, but he didn't know what. The girls come down, and they're like touching doors and stuff like that. One doesn't smell anything, and one smells something that smells like rubber. I'm like, real rubber could be the sheeting on electrical. And they're like, well, I don't see any smoke. I can't, figure out where it is. We'll come back in 30 minutes and check it out. Okay. So I put all their equipment up, and I'm like, oh, that still worries me. So I pull in, I walk back over to that breezeway, and it's getting stronger. And I'm like, Frank, come over here. And Frank comes over there, and he's starting to smell it. It's gotten strong enough for him to smell it with allergies. And I could smell it from the get-go because I'm attuned to the smell. Listen, always smelling for it when I'm washing the house. And so he calls 911 and gets the fire department coming. I call the head off, the front office, and tell the lady, like, yeah, we're seeing smoke now because Frank finally saw smoke. So it ended up not being and immediately I back up my pressure washer to the building because I got 100 gallons of water that if I need to put something out, then I'm gonna put out. As soon as I knew the fire department was coming, I moved out of the way so that they can get in. And the one girl in the office says, "Oh, I'll be right there." So she gets there right about the time the fire about like 4 or 5 trucks and 30 people for what ended up being a garage. They rolled a bunch of people because of this apartment complex, which is fine. She opens the one door, which ended up being in a garage, and smoke just poof comes in. So it's like, oh, let's close that. We know where it is. Let's not introduce air. But always know the smell because the fire department got in there and ended up being some rags that had some kind of probably kerosene or some kind of chemical on them, and they just got, for some reason, hot enough to start smoldering. And if they had smoldered long enough and got enough air, poof, and that whole place would have gone up. They did have a fire sprinkler system there. It was a red, so that's rated for 200 and something. It would have popped before anything else, but it would cause some damage. So always have a a fire extinguisher on every vehicle. And I just got ours because ours got popped, and so I just had a new one, that one refilled, and put a new one in both vehicles like last week. And always know what the smell of smoke is, and get a good idea of the smell of the specific types of smoke, because you don't want to call the fire department if somebody's barbecuing, but you want to call the fire department if somebody's house is on fire, or the garage is on fire, or the building is on fire. always good to have fire department there at those times. So that's the lesson for the day. You know, be ready to put out a fire if you got a pressure washer and a water tank, but also know what the smell is and have a fire extinguisher just in case, because you never know when that's going to happen. And it's not the first time; it's the second time that we've you know, been able to ascertain due to smell that there was a fire somewhere close, and figure out where it was. Eventually, you know, smoke pops up and you're like, oh, the fire's there. And then you see fire. But luckily this wasn't the case. It was just a lot of smoke and nobody got hurt and the building's okay, but it was a fun experience. Anyway, tip for the day. That's kind of long, but there's a lot to explain. And make sure you have good working fire suppression equipment in your vehicle at all times.